Welcome to CyberQuest, episode 5. And I have here with me Danny Kim and Moses Sanchez. And let's dive right in. Moses, you wrote me a disturbing email today or yesterday, and it said, our hosting provider sent this message out about an hour ago. We'll provide an update when resolved. Note, this does not impact such and such and such website. I don't repeat that publicly, but basically, we were under attack. Our server was of a DDoS, distributed denial of service. Could you explain what happened? And then Danny, I'm going to ask you, explain it to me like a 10-year-old. But first, Moses, what happened? Why send this email out?
Yeah. So first and foremost, my role is to communicate outages and things of that nature to our team here. So I wanted everyone to be aware that, our customer facing website, the hosting provider had moved our our workload that has our website and associated services to a different zone so that it wouldn't be attacked anymore, because they have all their geolocation cloud services. So they moved our workload into another region, and then so that took it offline, but that was a security measure. And then they were analyzing the traffic that was hitting our instance along with other production workloads for all the customers that were in that region that were getting attacked. So we did go down. Our website was in a state where it would not load everything. It would load components, but sometimes, depending on where you were accessing it, you would have been unsuccessful in reaching our website. So I wanted to communicate that to everyone. And then second to that is, this is unfortunately now the norm, with cloud services and hosting providers. It's not if, but when you'll get attacked, and you'll have to, do these mitigation tactics and respond for customers' data to be preserved. But then also, your infrastructure, the way you choose to deploy, a hosting environment, it's you don't want to be in a position where you aren't flexible and agile, and you can move workloads such as our provider could. This is just one of those things that, a website, okay, hey, people say, yeah, it's just a way for you to get brand recognition or sell products. But depending on what type of business you're running, this could be millions of dollars a second, right? Imagine if this was Amazon's website, right? This is not a trivial thing. So choosing the right provider, choosing, budget is always a big thing to where you choose to. Everyone wants free, right? But it's how reliable and how robust is it when you are the attack, on the other end of the attack. So that's the update on that.
Yeah, thanks. Danny, for a lot of our listeners, they may not know what a DDoS is, me being one of them. Could you explain this to me like I'm 10 years old? What is a DDoS?
Well, distributed denial of service, it's kind of like everything on the internet and on the network even. They listen on what's called listening ports. So even your website that you go to, or you click on, your information or log in, everything is listening on a listening port. And in a well-ordered environment, everybody's it's like you listening in a crowded room, and people are talking to you one by one in an orderly fashion. You can still process everything. You can, get the commands, or if they call your name, you can get it. But imagine somebody or group of people. Let's just say if one person is screaming, you can kind of probably block that out. So that's not a denial of service attack, because you can say, hey, I'm going to mute you because you're being unorderly. However, what the hackers do is they take over other people's computers. So imagine secretly some guy taking over the voice boxes of 1,000 people, and then he decides all at once to have 1,000 people scream at you all at once. And now you can't hear anybody else except all the screaming people that's coming at you. So you are so busy handling the flood of other malicious traffic that's just literally keeping you so busy you can't do anything else and you're immobilized. That's really what a distributed denial service is called. Essentially, a hacker's taken over a bunch of other computers. It's actually called zombies. So if your computer has a virus on it, a hacker has turned your computer into a zombie. And then what the hacker does is he turns all his zombie computers on at once to flood a specific website or a network service with a massive amounts of calls, usually in the tens of millions of calls a second. And then suddenly you're so busy you can't differentiate what's a valid call, what's a DDoS call, and so you literally are
Hmm.
immobilized trying to process these millions of calls at a time. So it's really just a way to just keep you so busy, and you don't know which one is real, which one isn't. So a lot of systems try to filter those things out, but it's just a racing game, right? Because they get more and more sophisticated, and they get through the network, they get through the firewalls and whatnot.
Are there? Let me follow up. Are there security products? We won't talk about full armor product today because I want to host a special session for that. But are
Mhm.
there existing products that these hosting companies, providers can use to mitigate some of the DDoS attacks, or is this just par for the course? There's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to mitigate, but you still have to. It's like a moving target if you think about it, because it's hard to differentiate which are valid calls and which are not. Who's screaming to try to take you down, and who's actually asking for a valid request. And you can do heuristics, you can do load balancing, you can do firewalls, you can do IPsec rules or firewall rules to try to mitigate as much as possible. But you still hear about it. It's not as common anymore, but it still happens, especially on networks that are cybersecurity poor. It's not well managed. The hackers are going to see it and they're going to say, okay, this one's not so protected. Let me just do the denial of service attack and bring some servers down.
Wow. Speaking of hacking, in our last class, I'm sure you guys were, well, obviously you were there. And I learned for the first time that there are hacking tools available, widely available to the public. And
Mhm.
and our students got a hand on a few of these. Moses, I want to ask you, why are we using hacking tools for our cybersecurity course? We use something called Wireshark. Could you explain some of these tools that we're using to scan the networks? And like, do you feel comfortable using it with students for our course?
Well, it's paramount that they understand what the industry tools are so that they actually are building the skill set during the program that is immediately relevant to a career or a role in an organization that they want to pursue. It it might seem to the general public as, wow, these tools, they're just freely accessible, and with open source and with you know the software that these tools are built on, it is generally available to the public.
Mm,
I think we all, depending on what phone we use or what laptop we use for work, we all kind of see this. Oh, hey, I can be an insider and give feedback to big companies as a beta tester. Well, the tools that those developers use to secure those apps and make the networks secure, those are also open source and beta and accessible to students, for education purposes, as well as, unfortunately, the bad guys, right?
yeah.
Those guys, they can also learn with these tools. So every industry has the right app for the right role, and these are just the standards that we're having to train toward. And honestly, it's when you when you use a tool, right, we all know it can be for good or for bad, right? And so we're making it very clear that in our lab environment, that these tools are usable and they're permitted to be used, and they're for learning and education purposes. We are not endorsing any student to do this on a network that they do not have control or the privilege and permission to scan and map and analyze. So that is the role.
Great. Danny, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I
Danny,
think one of
I
the
know that you've been in cybersecurity for, wait, hold on. I know that you've been in cybersecurity for 36 years. How have you seen tools evolve, hacker tools specifically, over those 3 decades? Like, are they getting
Yeah.
more sophisticated, or are they simplifying so that anybody can use them? And how powerful are they in what they do? Could you
Oh,
kind of
yeah, I
talk us
mean,
through the evolution of some
I
of these
was in
tools?
cybersecurity when we were using DOS, uh, the disk operating system, the little black box with the command line cursors, right? That Bill Gates sold to IBM. So back then, in the way we interject and listen to other conversations and intercept files was put a memory resident program, a virus, into the computer, and we would then siphon all the data that's going between programs and data within your computer. Now you're doing it at the internet scale. Instead of one computer at a time, you can now use Wireshark, and I love the tool called Burp Suite. I love these names for these hacker tools. And essentially, what they do is, and what's great about this is it gives the kids, our students, the knowledge that what they're presenting and exchanging online is completely visible to everybody. One of my biggest nightmares that I have is that I'm at a conference mic'd up to be a speaker, and I forget to turn off the mic, and I go off and have a private conversation thinking it's a one-on-one conversation, but everybody in the conference room is hearing it. That's essentially what you're doing online when you actually interact and share your information, especially if it's an unsecured line. And for the students to actually see all the unsecured traffic that's coming through, including your username and passwords that are being passed, it's a sobering exercise, not just so that they can learn what's happening, but they also now understand how to protect against it and what elements you can use. So these tools actually help them to understand what type of protections they need to put into place in order for the things that they look at and they develop is secure.
I want to talk about. I'm introducing a new segment to our show. It's called Career Corner. And recently, I'm sure you guys are hearing about this for the first time right now. Recently, I was on Reddit, and there is a subreddit for cybersecurity, right? And this is what one person wrote, kind of sharing and being vulnerable about their identity in the space, and how they feel that by not having a technical position in cybersecurity, that they feel less apt for promotion, or less ready for promotions, and just a traditional career path in cybersecurity. And I actually I'm going to throw the message up on the screen right now, so I don't have to read the whole thing. But essentially, this is what the person says, and I might edit this out, guys. He or she says the following. I would like your take on it, okay? It says, for a bit of background, I recently graduated with a bachelor's in cybersecurity with a minor in comp sci. I was fortunate enough to snag an info security position straight out of college. The company I work for is large, 20,000 plus employees, and the security team I work is fairly sizable as well. I personally work as an analyst, but the team also consists of engineers, GRC specialists, IM specialists, and a few managers. Stop right there. What are GRC specialists? What are their roles? Great.
I don't know.
IM specialist. Anybody?
Yeah, it's identity and access management.
Okay. I don't do anything
Oh, I'm
technical.
sorry,
The
GRC.
main bulk of
Yes, I know what GRC is. Government risk
Oh
and
yeah.
compliance.
okay, I'm not gonna edit this. I'm gonna leave that in. I don't do anything technical. The main bulk of my job duties include simply clicking through friendly GUIs to manage application generated alerts, a lot of which are FPs, and sifting through logs in our SIEM. I didn't set any of those applications up or configure them. That was all done by the engineers. All I do is use them. I mean, I guess you have to have knowledge of what alerts are telling you and know how to take proper due diligence, but I feel anybody could do this job. No degree or experience needed. The most technical thing I've done was set up a few honeypot nodes to dynamically block IPs in our firewall. Security related tickets sometimes get triage my way as well, but nothing crazy. Mostly just users looking to have a website whitelisted or an email released from quarantine. I don't do anything IAM or GRC related because, as mentioned, those are handled by the specialist on my team. Is this what entry level security analyst positions are generally like? I feel like I'm not really doing anything info security, lagging behind on my career development and knowledge of info security as a whole, currently looking to grab a CISA plus certification and looking for new job opportunities.
Hmm.
I mean, tell me straight up, does this person have something to worry about? Why does this person feel this way? Does not having a non-technical position in cybersecurity, are you at a position in which you're less likely to get promoted or move
I
up
think
in
this.
the chain?
I think this actually brings out. Thanks for reading the article. This brings out the biggest problem with cybersecurity expertise or training, and that is it's almost impossible. It's really difficult to get that from a college class or a book. Almost all cybersecurity experience is done hands-on. So with this guy at the entry level position, he's literally a glorified IT person, and they can't even trust him or even get him to the point where they can trust him with governance and compliance type tools. They can't trust him with IAM tools. Those are really very critical, mission critical tools that you really need a lot of experience in order to be able to handle and manage that. And so they're just waiting for him to get that experience in the company, hands-on experience before they're trusted with that type of functionality. So the gap between book knowledge and what you get from school to hands-on knowledge is so huge. And that's one of the things that cybersecurity, you really need that hands-on knowledge. Unless you have a class, and I'm promoting our class here. What's great about our class is that we are actually, instead of teaching book knowledge about what cybersecurity is, we're actually teaching kids how to actually hack and how to actually do hands-on white hat hacking and defense and whatnot. And so just giving them at least that hands-on experience so they have something they can go to a job and be useful and be productive with.
Great. Moses, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just, from my perspective, the person that wrote this, it's really telling because they're entering the job market. I presume they probably got hired maybe 18 months ago or a year ago, and they're entering cybersecurity as an industry. They're entering in a very mature cloud everything world, and maybe 6-8 years ago, that role would have involved a lot more infrastructure knowledge and or the requirement to build more honeypots and things like that. That really everything being standardized on the cloud, it gives these jobs an easier, a less technical starting point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think whoever wrote this is really insightful because they're probably looking around at all these other roles that they want to go to, and they're a lot more technically mature or just in depth in the requirements. I think you can be a specialist in cybersecurity, and that can be a fulfilling, rewarding career path.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be where this person's starting. These skill sets, security, every application, every virtual machine, every cloud instance that this person might manage or secure, or even if they want to go in a path of deploying infrastructure and being on a team that now they're sending the workload to a security department or someone after production or penetration testing, all these things,
Mhm.
they're all going to need to be secure. So it's not a stunted position. It's just that on top of you're just out of your graduate, you're going to get sort of not that much responsibility, right? They're not
Sure.
going to. So that being said, security jobs are inherently cloud native in a lot of ways. So they're not going to be that technical at the entry level, right? Because things, right? This isn't a startup, right? This is a large firm.
20,000.
And
Yep.
yeah, so this person is getting exactly what that type of enterprise in a mature cloud environment is at. So I think that goes a lot into where you start isn't always gonna be your norm, because I can tell you I've had roles where in my purview was something that I never even touched at my last position. So and obviously with the adoption of cloud services and just the global attack surface, right? There's so many things that this person is gonna. I'm very confident that this person, if they apply themselves and they want to grow in this larger organization, they can. It might not be a learning path that HR provides them, though. It's going to be very much self-driven and
Mhm.
self-motivated. It's not going to be in the typical, management training sort of path.
I
If
see.
they, yeah,
Wow. Thanks for the career advice from both of you guys. I think this was pretty enlightening for probably people who are just kind of interested in getting cybersecurity. On the flip side, not having technical knowledge, I want to cover this in another career corner. What if I don't have a technical background? I know, Danny, you mentioned that you don't need to know specific program languages to get a job in cybersecurity. So I want to talk about all of the, I guess, jobs that are not technical, non-technical jobs in cybersecurity for some of the people who may possess some other skills, like they have an interest in cybersecurity, but they have soft skills, you know, and they want to apply those kind of innate skills that they have to a field like cybersecurity. We'll talk about that next time.
great.
Sounds good.
Thanks for your time today, guys.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to stop and then you guys have to wait.